Disclaimer. The following is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a trained professional, nor should this video be used to substitute proper procedures. Always hire a professional and always check with your local building codes before performing any work. Hey guys, welcome to the third episode. This video today is just about how to mount this TV on the wall. It's kind of long and drawn out, and I apologize for that, but it's really good information if you've never done this kind of work before, and I want to give you the best information I can. So I really take you step by step on how I get the bracket on the wall and get the TV mounted. I cover a little bit of electrical, but stay tuned. I'm going to have a whole nother electrical video coming, and that's probably going to be one of the next videos coming out. But I am in between several projects as they've kind of stacked up on each other. So I'm not sure which one will be exactly next, but the electrical one is coming. With that being said, guys, I hope you get some enjoyment out of this video. If you need help or assistance on how to mount a TV, this is the video for you, so stick around. If not, I appreciate you coming in and checking it out. Watch it if you like, but it's a long, drawn-out, just instructional video. Just want to be up front and tell you what it's about. Got the paint done. Now we're going to mount this TV on the wall. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure you do is you got a good, decent bracket for the TV you're putting up. Now this TV weighs a freaking ton, and I've never found a bracket better than this one as far as the structure and weight. I'll get some good close-ups for you. This is a Sumar bracket, and I got this back at Fry's Electronics when I bought my first 65-inch, and then when I bought this one, of course, I realized this is the bracket that's got to go on this TV. It weighs way too much not to have this stout of bracket. And I've been very happy with this bracket. I've moved it. It stayed on this TV since I bought it. And I've always taken this bracket with me, even though, like realtors say, leave the bracket in the house. No, I've taken my bracket and replaced it. So anyways, yeah, I've got this guy to mount up on the wall. And there's a couple things you want to figure out when you're mounting a TV on the wall. First, you want to make sure the wall is good and sound and structurally. You've got good connection points. Usually most TVs don't have to worry about that. This thing weighs like 128 pounds. So we definitely want to make sure this wall's stout. Now we've got the structure of this wall here. We've got floor joists going across. I know this wall is nice and solid. The next thing is we're going to have to get power up here to it. And I'm going to move the TV out to do that, but I want to talk to you about how I'm going to measure the TV height and how I determine where I'm placing it on the wall before I get it out of the way, before we start doing like any kind of wall work and cutting the holes for the electrical. We'll get the first chore out of the way. That's finding and locating our studs to find out where our TV is going to sit at and where these studs are at. So I just got a little mechanical pencil here and the stud finder, and we're going to go ahead and run it on this wall, and we're going to mark our studs out. So I just grab a spot somewhere, I want to work my way toward the middle of the wall. I'm going to put a dash right at the start of that beep. And you see it shuts off. There it is right there. So we've got a stud right here. I'm going to continue on. Now this should be, if you got a house with 16-inch center studs, let me find my tape measure here real quick. Now that I have one stud, I'm going to assume right now the next stud center is right about here. I've got a stud here and a stud here centered. Let's go ahead and look here to see if we got one over here. So center stud right there. Now we're just going to verify those three locations real quick with the stud finder. So we're going to go ahead and start here at this stud. Verify our stud is reading. Okay, it's beeping. Go all the way across the wall. Sometimes you get a secondary stud, but no stud, and I'm expecting it right there. Now this one's measuring about a 15-inch center, I'd say. So it's a little off. So we're studs right there. So we got a stud and a stud. Now let's check this one, see if it was on 16 or not. There it is, about start, all the way through, right about there. Okay, we've got our three major studs going across this wall here, and that's a pretty good positions for these studs for this big TV. The next thing we want to do is we want to verify what our height is going to be on the television set. Where do we want it on the wall? To do that, let me bring you a little closer actually. I've got this bracket mounted at the bottom edge of the television to where it's hidden, and then up as far as I can. Now I can go a little higher on this bracket and move it up higher. Like I can do that. But I want the mass of the television, this bulky part, and the lower mass of it kind of at the bracket. So if I go higher, I'm putting more stress on the lower of the legs, and while it'll probably work, I'm just not comfortable with that myself. I try to get the bracket on center mass of the television as much as I can. So it's always sat with an angle down. It's always sat with the bracket, the TV leaned back. So this is a flat wall. This is the angle the TV sits at. And what we want to do is we want to determine that top height of our lip and where the wall bracket sits at. So if we snap this thing in place, if when this thing goes up on the wall, it sits on this bracket and the bottom one snaps in, okay? So we want to know this height in comparison to the TV's top edge or bottom edge. And that'll determine where we want the top of this rail to be on our wall. So let's fold up our bracket, get it kind of closed up. Okay, and we're going to come out the top of our TV, and the inside is about, I'd say 13.5 inches to the top of this bracket. And that'll give us that height. So we know the top of the TV will sit 13.5 inches away from the top of this bracket. Now the TV overall is, and you can look up these specs on your television when you buy them, is about 34 inches in height. Now, if we go to the top bracket to the bottom edge of the television, we're at about 21 inches. So, if I know I've got to be 21 inches from the bottom of the television up to the top of my bracket, and I've got 13.5 from the top going down to the top of the bracket, that gives me some ideas of where the heights can be on the television. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to slide this TV out of the way, and we're going to measure it. But let me grab my pencil again. We're going to write these numbers down, and the best place I always do that at is right here on the wall. So we got TV is 34 inches in height, 13.5 inches top TV to top bracket, and we've got, 21 inches bottom TV top bracket. Now, the reason why I use top bracket on both is, don't confuse yourself, we only need one space to know where we're going to line the top bracket up on the wall, and that's why we're going to use the top edge. We're not going to do anything else. So I'm going to pop this out. It's got nice locking auto clamps. We're kind of fixed on this TV is going to be able to slide on this bracket to give us some centering on this wall, so I'm not too worried about, I'm mainly concerned about hitting these 3 studs here with this bracket, which it should be able to reach, and we want to figure out what the height is going to be of our television. All right, as you can see, we got an outlet down here. We're going to kill the breakers. We're going to tap power from this outlet up the wall for our TV outlet. And there's lots of fancy ways to do that. You can put in recessed containers that hold, some recessed stuff. My TV sticks away out far enough. I can just put outlets up top and be cleared, and that's all I'm going to do. It's a lot cheaper. So we got to do that, but let's figure out our heights now. So let me reposition the camera. We know where our stud locations are. We got our dimensions. What we're going to want to do, figure out what's best height for me. Now, I don't like a TV all the way up to the ceiling. I like it kind of middle of the room, kind of on the upper half, I guess you could say, of the room if you're going to mount it for sitting and watching. This can be a work television more than a TV for that. So what I want to do is figure out my optimal desk height, because I'm going to build a custom desk for this space that sits at my height. And what we're going to do is, most desks sit at like 30 inches. This is sitting at 34.5 right now. I'm going to say, let's see, I want to be able to be a clearance up to, say, 36 inches. I want that desk to clear that television if I push it all the way to the wall. So at the bottom of the TV is at 48 inches to clear a standing desk. We have that mark. Let's make a mark at 48. Problem with being up high is I want this thing to be usable. And you can see, our TV is 34. TV height top is going to be up here. TV top. Now, if I'm sitting here, and this is how I'm thinking this through in my head. If I'm sitting here in this chair at this desk, which is going to be back a little bit further, I'm staring at the bottom of the TV right here at 48 in a comfortable sitting position. and I'm gonna be like this to work, and that is not comfortable. And I use this television for multi-windows when I'm on my Mac, so I want it down a little bit to where I have the windows right here. So let's go ahead and look at what 36 inches is gonna look like. So at the bottom of the TV is at 36 right here. That's 36 inches. That's putting me at about center of the television. There's the screen. That honestly is a good height, but it seems a bit low, just a touch low for what I'm wanting in this room. Maybe 39 is the number. Let's check 39. And what's nice is we're adjusting all this right now without drilling any holes in the wall. Okay, so 34 from 39. About right here. TV top 39 inches. Okay, looks like that might be a good height to have the television at. So I'm gonna shoot for the bottom of the TV to be 39 inches. I think that's the number I want. 21 inches to the top of the bracket from 39. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go with the bottom of the TV's there. We're gonna set our bottom 39 inch mark at 21 inches. And we're gonna mark up here, top of bracket. And we're gonna be fairly close, within at least ½ inch, I'd say, of actuality, because I'm just using a tape measure and rough eyeballing off the tape measure. So I'm not being exactly precise, but you can be if you really want to be. But right now, I know my bracket's gonna sit with the studs right here. I've got the top of the bracket. I'm on one stud, center stud, and the side stud. All right, so we have our top of the bracket mark. We know where that's gonna be at. What we're gonna do, we're gonna grab our bracket. So we're gonna center it using the label. And the top of our bracket mark is right here. And our stud is right here. And we're gonna center that bolt. Okay, and we're gonna bring our top of the bracket up, just eyeball it right now. That's all we need to do. And we wanna mark that hole. Now the other thing, before we drill this, we wanna know that this bolt, or one of these, is gonna go into the stud. Remember, it should have been 16-inch center, but these are little, they're about 1 inch short on that. And this one looks like we'll catch right on the edge, no problem. And this one's over here. We're gonna just drift this thing to the left a little bit to line up our outside holes a little bit tighter, or more center on the stud, and we'll use this hole on its edge over here. Let me drill it real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And right now we're just gonna drill the one hole. And I've got a drill bit selected that is gonna be about the size of a little smaller than the shank of the lug screw you're gonna use. And we're got the center of the thing, top of the bracket, and like I said, I'm not worried about perfection. I just want eyeball roughly the right height. And we're gonna go center stud. And we should feel we're biting into the wood. As soon as you pop through that drywall, you should feel this thing grab into the wood and drill wood out. And you can test it by pulling it out and make sure you're pulling wood out, which we are on this. Now I'm feeling, as I drill through that stud, that it doesn't free up and like we go sideways or off the edge of that stud, which I don't think we did here. We felt it's nice and solid all the way through. We've got wood coming out, and clean that hole up. Well, you can see that if you lay your drill bit across the bolt hole, you shouldn't be able to see the drill bit or the shanks, or you should be able to see that it's well within inside the main shank inside your threads of the lug screw. That's what you're looking for. So we're looking to make sure it's the right size drill. That's one thing you want to do before you drill the hole, that the lug's going to fit properly. The next thing I want to do is I want to set up my impact driver, because these things are a pain in the butt to get started in here. And we're going to go ahead and set this bracket up there. Make sure you have the washer as well on your lug screw. And we're going to go ahead, put it in the slot we you're intending to use, just to have it in there. And we're going to drill this in here. Now I didn't go all the way tight because we got to level this next. And we're going to level it before we drill the next holes. Take yourself a nice little 2 foot, 3 foot, or 4 foot level. If you got the room, the longer the better. And set it in here. Now, this one actually fits inside there because I left it just loose enough that it gives it a bit of a tension. And the way I do this now is we're going to have with that level in there and cause some tension. Make sure it's always make sure it's secure in there. We're going to set our bubble level center, and that gives us our marks for our next hole. Let me show you. Say we're center on our bubble. So now we got this bolt hole here. It's loose once the level's out, but we're going to drill our holes next. Now what you can see, maybe here you'll be able to see my pencil lines of where the stud is and why I wanted to shift this over to the left by moving that bolt, slide it in this slot, not centering it. So if you're on this particular bracket will fit across 3 studs if it's 16-inch center studs. If not, you've got to go 24 and split the difference between 24, which it won't reach. It'll only grab 2. So you can see we're going to grab on the edge of this one. We're going to grab in the center of this stud. And when we grab the edge of this one, we actually got a little bit of room to play to scoot it over to grab inside this stud here with these marks. We verify our level. Our bracket's somewhat stout, tight. We're going to drill these next 2 size holes here. We're going to go center on this one. Now, this one feels a lot looser, but we're pulling wood out, which is important. This the 2x4 is not as stout as the center one was. That was a hard piece of wood. Now we're going to check this one. This one we're going to need that bolt all the way over. Okay, felt that little pop through the drywall. You might have heard it in the microphone. And now we're going to drill into the wood. Verify we're pulling wood. Saw a piece of wood fly out. We're good. Make sure it's deep enough. Now, you want to pre-drill these holes for these lag bolts. They'll do more damage than good trying to shortcut it and just drill these straight into the wall where you think they need to be. One, you want to verify that the hole you're going into is a solid all the way through the stud. You're not going out sideways to where you get in a loose screw potentially or a weak point. All right, so I'm going to just demonstrate to you real quick. We got a piece of 2x4. So imagine this is your stud in the wall. And we start drilling this thing off center here. Get it started. It's tough to do. You can see you can kick the screw out sideways. So you're splitting the wood, and because of that split, if you look down inside there, you don't have a good engagement with that screw. So that's one of the dangers of you got to watch out for. Now you'll know if the bolt turns like that and you'll be kicked out. You'll know you got a problem. But let's just say we want to go close to the edge again. This time let's drill it. Now let's see what happens when we actually use a drilled hole this time. And even though we're not centered on the stud, the bolt didn't split the wood. That's why you want to pre-drill your holes on your studs. Let's try it in the center. Okay, so let's just say we're going to throw a bolt in here in the middle. Say we got it locked in the center. Let's see what happens. Notice it's incredibly hard to start too without pre-drilling the hole. Now, if you're going to go in and drive the screw in center, you're going to get a better bite in the center. It won't split the wood necessarily, but you can see I didn't have much control of which way my screw drove into the board, and it went in at a slight angle. Versus if you drill it first, you can control that drill depth and the angle, and it lets the screw have a guide to go into with. And look how much easier it starts. So that's why we drill before we put these lug screws in. And that's going to be really important to keep that in mind. So pre-drill the hole is always a good step to have. And you can see these are fairly long studs. These are going to take up the whole 2x4. And we're going to go ahead and run it in. We're going to take the level out because we're going to need to bottom this thing out next, but we're going to keep it up here because we want to make sure we're still reading level as this thing tightens in. Let's go ahead and tighten up our centering screw here. Now, one thing nice about these little M12s or any little small impact, they don't have the torque to strip this out because that's a very tight, long lug. So when it bottoms out, you know you're nice and tight on the stud and the wood and the bracket. There it is, all the way down. Okay, still level on our level there, so we're good. We've got the 3 top screws in. Now, on this particular bracket, just because I have them, I've got 3 larger screws up top. Now this is holding the weight of the TV folding down. I mean, it's on the wall. It ain't going nowhere. On the bottom, the weight's not so much the issue as it is just keeping it from flopping. So I use smaller, lighter screws for that. This drill bit would be too big and we'll have a loose bite with this screw because it's going to drill out more of your thread area than we want. So quick switch to the drill bit. Okay, got the smaller drill bit now. So you can see we got a good removing the wood from the center, leaving plenty of grip in the middle around it. So we're going to just do a quick drill, quickly drill these holes, and we're just going to line them up with the top screws. Now that we have our bracket in, now we're going to put the outlet in up above the TV, above the bracket. We've got our stud location on these bolts here. And one thing about outlets is they're usually bolted to a stud or nailed to a stud from when they build the house. So it's on one side or the other of the stud. So now we've got our stud up here, and we know the stud's on this left side of this outlet here is what's in line with this stud. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a hole up here for our 4 outlets. And we want to plan to make sure there's room for the bracket to be away from that, but to a point we won't see it behind the television when the TV's on the wall. And then of course the last thing I'm going to put in, which I don't have yet, is I'm going to put in a wire drop, which is just an opening for top and bottom to run like an HDMI cable through. Now you can buy fancy little HDMI wall outlets, and I've seen them before. The problem is you don't always know which version HDMI they are or what they're compatible with. And I've had bad luck with them in the past. So instead of adding a whole bunch of connections to my signal line, I just send just an HDMI cable through and plan to leave it there for the next person to use it or take it with me when I take out and patch the holes. So we're gonna put our outlet in over here. I'm gonna have to go down to Home Depot probably and pick up the little drops for it. And those drops, if you're not familiar with them, they look like something like this with a little outlet cover. So right now, we need to cut a hole here for our outlet. And one thing I want to check on the TV real quick is how far up those brackets are extending and where they're not going to be in the way. I think we'll stick with it up here and we'll put it up just high enough. So my top of the TV from the bracket was 13.5. So there's the top of the television. Those brackets stick up about 5 to 6 inches above that. So those brackets that will the clip on and the TV will hang is actually the longer part. So we should have plenty of clearance here with the top of the bracket clipped in. We shouldn't be any interference there. What we have here is what they call old work electrical box, and I got a deeper one so I have room for wires. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a hole about right there, but we want to set this box in there, and then when you screw this box down, these old work boxes will tighten these little lugs down to the back side of the wall, and that's what secures it to the wall there, is these little lugs. So we can level this so we know that when it's in there and our screws are in there, that we're nice and square on the wall and it looks proper. It sure doesn't look level, but it's telling me it's level, I'll tell you that. I don't think I would have called that level, but that's level right there. Trust the equipment. Okay, so we're gonna make a mark. It's a new day. Busy night, so it's already late, and I'm gonna cut this hole up before everybody goes to bed. So it's gonna make a little bit of noise. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop the electrical line in tonight and get that done. So the bracket we got up, we're gonna drill a couple holes in this wall right here. And just softly poke it in here to see, because I want to get that blade in there. So all I did with the drill bit, let me just show you real quick, is we just drill a hole big enough, kind of angled it up a little bit. Drill this hole so that this blade on the jigsaw will fit in there, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut it out. Now what I'm doing is I'm cutting the corners off, and let me show you again how I'm cutting these. So I'm cutting these corners out so I can get the blade to turn and then drop in here like so. So I gotta take a little bit more out of this one because it's not want to quite drop in. Now I can bring the saw up vertical and we'll cut and follow our line on the inside. Hey guys, one thing I forgot to mention, before you go cutting into the wall with a jigsaw or anything like that, make sure there's no electrical lines back there. You need to poke a pole big enough you can see into, examine the area, stick a coat hanger and wiggle it around, see if you grab anything. Or if you got a bore scope, put a bore scope down in there. Now in this case, I could have easily cut the electrical line because it was on the side of the stud, stapled, going down to the outlet. So definitely check your electrical line routing before you go digging into the wall. I want it to fall outward, so slow down on that last little bit, pull out our cutout. Now we'll find out how close we are. So these things just kind of slide in here like this. It's a little snug, which is what I want. I want it to be a little snug. And now our electrical box is in. We haven't secured it yet, nor am I going to, because we need to run the wires. So we're gonna pop it back out. And then this bottom one usually hangs down, so you gotta rotate it with the screwdriver to get it to lift up so you pull it out. All right, so now that we got our hole cut out for the outlet box, what we want to do next is we're going to run the wire. To do that, we're going to have to go shut the power off, pull the outlet out from down below, and fish a wire up through here, and I'll show you how I do that. All right, so the very first thing you always want to do when messing with electrical is make sure our power is off. So right now we're hot. So we're going to leave this plugged in, we're going to go flip the breaker, and that'll be off. All right, so I didn't get the microphone plugged back in on the camera properly, so we got no audio for the entire electrical installation. I apologize for that, so I'll do my best to overlay the audio from a recording me watching this. So the first thing I wanted to tell you is make sure the power's out and it's safe to work on this electrical. Always make sure, verify you got no voltage coming in your wires. Now I pulled this outlet out of the wall to gain access, and I'm going to go ahead and find out right now that these connections are very, very poorly installed. And I wanted to pull out the other outlets to check them, but we're going to come back to this outlet right now. As you can see here, these wires are, one, installed incorrectly. They're cut too long with bare wire, and they're just generally very poorly installed. You can see they're looped in from the counterclockwise position. Now this is great if you're going to loosen the bolt and tighten it down, but what you want to do is be able to come in on the other side with the hoop and come around the other side and then tighten the screw. This will help make the screw make the wire tighter around the shaft of the screw. This method right here, they're just very poorly put together and very loose. This can be dangerous. You can create arcing, get hot, cause fires because of this kind of wiring. So if you're not comfortable with wiring, definitely hire a professional. And there's some great videos out there on YouTube to tell you how to properly set up this wiring, install it correctly. All right, now that our outlet's getting completely removed from the inside, we'll trim the wire leads back, make sure there's no sharp metal. Now what we're going to take is a piece of our Romex. And this is just a 2-wire Romex with a ground line. We're not using the ground line in this installation because my house doesn't have a ground return circuit. It's just 2-wire. So what we're going to do, you have a couple options. You can install this from the hole you made above and drop it down to the outlet and hopefully hook it and bring it in, or you can try to fish it up. I don't have very much luck fishing up, so it's a lot easier to drop it down from the top and bring it down into the bottom outlet. Now, as you can see here in this photograph, there's another board inside my wall that made this a little bit more challenging for me. And because of that, I didn't have direct wire control. I actually spent a good 30 to 40 minutes just fishing this line down through this wall to get it back to this outlet box. Now, had I two ganged this outlet, I could have cut these nails holding this outlet box in, pulled the entire outlet box out, opened up the hole, brought all my lines in. It would have been a lot simpler. I just didn't plan to put a two gang outlet down low because I plan on running a surge protector power strip from this outlet, so I didn't see the need in going any larger. Alright, so this is what the inside of the outlet box looks like on this old house. We got two little plugs there, and we got two wires going up. We're going to try to pull that wire through one of these holes. Sometimes you get really lucky, and sometimes you sit here for 30 minutes. Okay, so one method I've used in the past is use a long wire coat hanger. This time, this wire coat hanger didn't prove to be very useful because it wasn't long enough for me to route through the wall. But if you can find something solid like this wire or coat hanger or a long cable feed or something like that, there's specialty tools you can use for this stuff that will make this job a lot easier. But if you don't have anything, little patience and luck, you can definitely get this wire fed through there and get it through the other side. Okay, we're on.
Okay. Both of them?
Yep, it's on. We're secure. And just like that, I magically lifted it by myself. All right, so we got the TV installed. It's hung up. I know I kind of fell apart there during the electrical portion with losing the audio. That really sucked. So hopefully the voiceover works. I will be covering more electrical in this studio build out. In fact, the next episode is all about the electrical outlets, and I'm going to show you more detail about how to wire them. So I didn't spend too much time on this video about it. It was more about getting the TV hung up and positioned. So this thing's going to be my main primary display editing monitor is what I use this for. And so the desk will be coming in. There's also going to be a new desk video because I've got a desk to put in. That's going to be a lot of fun to do that, and it's going to be a big project. So with that, guys, I appreciate you watching to the end of this video. If you made it this far, this video was a little bit of a quick challenge to get something instructional like this out. So I appreciate you sticking to the end of this video, and hope you got something out of it. Like hopefully you learned how to mount a TV on the wall. So with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.